We made money this week. Feels good. It was a rough last week, so it's exciting to make money this week. I had the opportunity to play 2 sessions this week. I'll walk you through both. The first session was kind of more of the same. I lost $6,000 in that session. Quite a brutal session. The second session was much better. I was able to turn my initial buy-in of $2,500 into approximately $23,000. So it was quite a day. A lot of interesting hands to share from that session. So happy to jump into it. So to begin, session 1 was an interesting game. As I mentioned, I lost $6,000 in that session. I'm not going to bore you with all the hands, but a summary of the hands are essentially like this. Flop comes King 8 4. I flop King 8, get all the money in, and I lose to pocket fours. Another hand I played, the board is 9 6 Deuce King with 1 flush draw. I get all the money in with top 2 pair, King 9, and I end up losing to pocket 9s. Another hand played that session. It's a 3-bet pot. I wake up with the double pair, double suited, 3-3-5-5. The board comes Ace 6 4, and we get all the money in. I have the straight draw, flush draw, and 2 set draws, and I run into pocket aces. Money lost again. Flash forward to the end of the night. If you love PLO like I love PLO, do the right thing. Take a moment to hit the subscribe and like button for more PLO content. Building up my chip stack, I'm winning in the game even after all those losses I just described. And I play an all-in pot. The $100 straddle is on, so all the money is in play. I play an all-in pot with Ace 5 7 on 3 6 Queen 4. So I have the nut straight here with the redraw to the nut flush draw. Pretty much loving life. It's good of a spot you can be in. We get all the money in, and the opponent shows up with pocket freeze, and the dealer pairs the board. So, that was my first session. Kind of more of the same. To be honest, I was a little nervous after the first session because it just felt like this downswing I was in. You start to question, are you ever going to get out of it? So I lost $6,000 in that session. I think one of the learnings is that in that game in particular, I did not really like the structure of the game. So the game was you had the option to straddle the button for $25 or $50, but then after midnight, they allow a $100 button straddle. So essentially what happens is everyone who's losing starts to straddle for $100. And now you're playing every hand for all of your stacks because the game just 4x'd in size from where it started. And the way people play in this game is they buy in short stacked and they just try to get all the money in and they see what happens. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to continue to play in this game. I think there's a lot of money in play. A lot of money is gambling, so it seems appealing. But it doesn't really fit my style in the sense that there is skill in winning in these showdown short stack games, but it doesn't really play into what I do well when it comes to poker and PLO. So I just have to think if that makes sense. Now, transitioning to the second session of the week. Now, in this session, a poker game broke out. And good for me and bad for the people I played with, I'm fucking good at poker. And what I mean by a poker game broke out is that the stacks got deep, the blinds remained relatively the same, and the stand-up game was on, and people were battling. And I think I thrive in this type of environment because I tend to care less about the money. I tend to be focused on making the right decision. And when the stacks get deeper, you get more opportunities to make interesting decisions. So now I'll do a deep dive into 5 hands that I played in this session. 2 hands I will cover in this video, and the final 3 hands I will cover in a part 2 of this. Okay, in the first interesting hand of the session, this happened relatively early in the night. me and the main opponent in this hand, we started around $3,000 effective. I'm in the big blind with a single suited 10-7-7-6. The main villain in this game, he opens from early position to $100. The blinds are 10-10-25. He opens in the early position to $100. He gets called by one player, and then I complete in the big blind with the 10-7-7-6. The board comes Gen. The board comes 10-7-3 rainbow. So obviously this is a very good flop for me. I flop middle set with a blocker to top set. So I have the essential nuts. So I have two decisions to consider on this board. I could consider leading, or I could go for a check raise. I decided I didn't want to lead. Given that we're playing around $3,000 effective and there's only 300 in the pot, I thought by leading, there's going to be a lot of turns that I'll have to check on, and also potentially a lot of rivers I'll have to check on too if a straight comes in. So I thought and the player I'm playing against specifically, objectively in this game, I think he was drawing dead. Not that he's a bad player, but just given the lineup and the players in the game, he was probably the worst player, and he has a tendency to put too much money in the pot with worse hands and overvaluing hands. So I thought he would be a good opponent to check raise, and it plays out perfectly. So I check in the big blind. The original pre-flop raiser, he continuation bets for $200 into the pot of 300. The third player in the hand, and this player is short stack, so it's a little less significant what they do. They started the hand with 500, and he's kind of a bad passive player. So he's just going to check, call a lot, and just try to make a hand. So anyway, he calls the $200 bet, and now the action is on me. And I am going to put in the check raise here. So I check raise for full pot, and I get called in both spots. So when I get called, when I have the 10-7-7, I'm pretty concerned I'm up against a straight draw. On 10-7, there's a lot of 8-9, 6, 8-9 jack, just 8-9 in general, 8-9 with a 10. So there's a lot of hands that are going to want to continue. And that's kind of what I'm thinking this player has. So my plan is if I get a clean turn, I'm just going to go all in and try to get the money in while I'm ahead. And the turn card is the 2 of spades, which is about as clean as it gets. I pot. The second player goes all in. And the third player is already all in. So we have all the money in. I'm pretty sure that I have the best hand at this point. And the run out is fucking horrible. It is a jack of hearts and a 4 of spades. We ran 2 rivers. I turn over the 10-7-7 and I scoop the side pot and I get half of the main pot. My opponent, he put all his money in with 10-7, top 2 pair. So a bit of a cooler there. But as I mentioned early on in kind of my perception of that player, he just puts in too much money in with a light hand. So he had a naked 10-7 without much of a redraw to improve. And the short stack player, he ended up making a set of jacks on the river. I think he had the overpair and some type of gut shot straight draw. And made the set of jacks to win half the pot. And I get the other half. So it was a good hand there for me. I get essentially a full double up there, and the night is off to a good start. So the next hand I want to share, the stand-up game is on, and I'm on the button with 6-4-4-3. By the time we get to this hand, the stacks are getting a bit deeper, and in this hand, I think we're effective around $7,000. There's a $50 shuttle this hand, and I'm on the button with 6443. There's one limper to me, and the action's on to me. I raise to 200. I get called from the straddler and the one limper. So we go to a pot with approximately $600 in the pot. The board comes 10-4-6 with two clubs. So relatively good flop for me. I flopped bottom set here. And, I'm looking to play a medium-sized pot, but also not excited to go crazy with bottom set with a straight draw and with a flush draw and a few straight draws on the board. The big blind player, who is first to act, he leads for full pot into the two of us. So there's $600 in the pot approximately. He bets $600. The limper folds, and the action's on to me with bottom set. There's really nothing else to be done here. I just flat. The turn is a jack of hearts. And this is a good turn card. It doesn't complete the straight, doesn't complete the flush, and it brings in another flush draw, though. So it makes rivers very dicey for me. So there's $1,800 in the pot, and the aggressor leads again for full pot for $1,800. And the action's on to me. So now I have a decision to make. I'm nervous. I don't love my hand in this scenario. The player who is leading here, he is a solid player. I've discussed poker with him a lot. I understand that he knows what's going on. He's definitely a winning player. And for him to go pot, he's repping a pretty strong range, right? It's either a wrap and a flush draw, or he's got top set. And I'm just putting in my money dead. However, he's also weirdly capable at times of kind of finding some weird spots to put a lot of money in with kind of boards that he thinks people aren't strong on. So I don't think I can consider folding, actually, but I'm not happy. And I'm probably just going... I'm not happy, and I'm really not sure what river I want. Pretty much every river card brings in a straight or a flush, and, I'm just not sure what the river is that I want, but I know my hand's too good to fold, and I could be ahead. And I'm ahead a lot. So he does something interesting. Once I make the call, he then checks blind, which, to me indicates that he likely has a made hand. And for all the same reasons that I'm not excited to put a lot of money in, that the board is just going to change on pretty much every river card, by him checking out of position after making two big bets, that to me feels as if he's got a made hand and just wants to get to showdown. And, that's okay with me because I kind of want to do the same thing. So the river card is really interesting. It is a 6. So it pairs the board, makes me a full house, and the opponent checked to me after leading on both boards. I was in the tank for a while here, actually, in the game. So if you think back to the hands that I thought he was likely to have, I thought he either had a made hand or a massive draw. There are not a lot of made hands that I beat with bottom full house, right? Like if he had top 2 pair, he made a higher full house. If he had a higher set, he either made quads or he made a better full house. And if he had the wrap and flush draw, well, he's just going to fold to any bet that I make anyway. So in the moment, I decided there was no value in betting my hand here, and I checked back. And we turn our cards up, and we end up splitting the pot. So as I mentioned, he started the hand in the big blind, and he showed up with 4, 6, 8, 9 with clubs. So he flopped bottom 2 pair, a gutter ball to a straight. He turned an open-ended flush draw, and he decided to empty the clip. Well, he didn't empty the clip. He gave up on the turn, or he gave up on the river with a check. What's funny is if he had not checked blind going into the river and decided to bet his full house, I probably would have folded my hand. Because I'm thinking he has a better set than me, or he has 10-6 at the worst. And if he kind of bluffed me off with Jack 10, God bless him, he's just going to win the money. But actually, by playing his hand passive and checking blind, he let me get half the pot. So thank you for that.